CBS Sports, the National Football League.
You are looking live at Cleveland Stadium, where the Browns must fight the Vikings and a wind chill factor of 20 below zero to maintain their shot at a fifth straight playoff appearance. But they're going to need a big game from quarterback Bernie Kosar, who's been nursing that sore right elbow. Now, Minnesota's backfield star, Herschel Walker, is also ailing. He has a dislocated toe. But the Vikes are only one win away from clinching their first Central Division title since 1980. With a wind chill of -9, it's relatively balmy over in Chicago's Soldier Field. The Bears, who are not going to the playoffs for the first time in 6 years, want to see to it that the Packers don't go either. In Green Bay, quarterback Don Majkowski has worked his magic repeatedly this season, but now the Pack still needs one more miracle to make the playoffs. And inside the warm Pontiac Silverdome, the Lions welcome Tampa Bay. Detroit, with 3 victories in a row, is now, believe it or not, one of the hottest teams in the league. And running back Barry Sanders, who led the NCAA in rushing last year en route to the Heisman Trophy, now leads the NFC with over 1,200 yards, and he should be a shoo-in for Rookie of the Year.
Last night, in a surprising change of events, Denver assistant coach Mike Shanahan has decided to turn down the head coaching job at the University of Kentucky. I'll tell you why he chose to remain with the Broncos.
Last season, Sam Weish coached the Bengals into the Super Bowl. This season, Cincinnati is 7-7 and 1 loss away from elimination. We'll talk with Sam about his team and the trouble it's having.
If there's one place happy to watch Sam Weish sink, it's Cleveland. Last Sunday, Weish installed the entire city on the PA system at Riverfront Stadium. I spent some time in Cleveland this week, and you'll hear those citizens get their turn to sound off at Sam. All that and more coming up on the NFL Today.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Sunday number 15 here on the NFL Today. And, Irv, it looks like weather is going to be a huge factor today.
Oh, big factor. You know, the Minnesota Vikings are only 1-5 outdoors this year, Brent. But this week, what they did, they worked outside Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And Hassan Jones wound up suffering from frostbite on Thursday, so he missed Friday's practice. He's one of the leading receivers. He'll play today. But the Vikings are also going to take advantage of this cold weather, Brent. Defensively, their strategy is to force Bernie Kosar to throw the ball late in the game, because as the game progresses, his elbow stiffens. He won't be quite as effective as a passer.
Irv, let's get everybody up to date on the playoff picture now. Only 2 Sundays to go. And yesterday, Denver joined San Francisco in claiming the home field advantage for as long as each Western Division champion stays in the playoffs. And, of course, the Broncos went up over the top 37-0 over the Phoenix Cardinals, and Steve Sewell with the touchdown pass. Now, also yesterday, the Giants clinched at least a wild card, and they applied pressure to Philadelphia in the tight NFC East race. It was a game of 2 4ths and 1. Giants scored, Cowboys did not. What a terrific goal line stand. That's 2 weeks in a row that the defense for the Giants has done it down by the goal line, and that was the tackle by Carl Banks. Now, here's what to look for today. By winning, Minnesota and Houston can wrap up their respective Central Division crowns. Philadelphia also a win away from qualifying. Now, the Eagles play at New Orleans tomorrow night. Now, Buddy Ryan's squad could also back in today, but they have to have help to do that. Looking at the bigger picture right now, Buffalo, Miami, the Raiders, and the Rams still control their own destiny with a magic number of 2. In other words, win out and you get in the playoffs. Now, the others still alive in the AFC are Cleveland, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, and Seattle. In the NFC, there are 2 other survivors, Green Bay and Washington. Now, the last time the Minnesota Vikings captured the NFC Central Division title, that was back in 1980, and ironically, they did it back then also against Cleveland on the next to last Sunday of the season. This was the final play of the game. Do you remember it? The quarterback, Tommy Kramer, the wide receiver, Ahmad Rashad.
3 wide receivers right, Kramer back to pass. He's going deep, down the right side, and it is fought for, and it's touchdown!
So they'll try to do it again today. Irv, let's go live to... Look at that face. Now, do you remember that face on a very cold day in Cincinnati? Hey, Dan Fouts, how does the weather compare with that day you took the Chargers into Cincinnati?
Well, it's real close, Brent, but I'm better prepared today. I got all kinds of clothes on.
Let me ask you about Bernie Kosar, all the speculation about the elbow. I'm wondering if in this cold weather it isn't tougher on him, especially in the fourth quarter.
Well, I believe it might be because the field will be frozen. And if he falls on it, it's going to be the problem. It's not a career-ending type of injury, though. It's just a bruised elbow. He's about 90% healthy. He's got a range of about 55 yards. The big problem today is going to be the wind. And as everybody knows, Bernie Kosar is not a real tight spiral type of thrower, so that could give him some problems as well.
Dan, this has been the year to take pot shots at offensive coordinators. Bob Schnelker with the Minnesota Vikings and Mark Trestman with the Cleveland Browns. Apparently he's under some fire in there. What do you hear about that story?
Well, it's kind of appropriate that we have a frozen field because Mark Trestman is on thin ice. But he will call the plays today. He has been under some heat, especially for those interceptions that Kosar threw last week against the Indianapolis Colts.
All right, Dan, stay warm.
You bet.
Okay. Irvin, you spoke to Kosar this week. What about the speculation that his career was going to be over because of that elbow?
No, it's not a career-threatening injury. As a matter of fact, he also has insurance, too, if he does have a career-ending injury, not only on the field, but off the field as well. If anything ever happens to Bernie Kosar, he's covered.
All right, Irvin. Meantime, Cincinnati coach Sam Weish has been making headlines on and off the field. Today, the Bengals host Houston, and a loss would freeze the defending AFC champions out of the playoffs. Now, earlier, I spoke with Weish about a number of issues, starting with an update on the weather at Riverfront.
Can you see my face when I exhale? That's how cold it is. I really don't know. It's going to be around 0, I think, and then with the wind chill factor, but it's supposed to get up into the teens or so. So if the wind's not blowing, it'll be okay.
You know, Sam, the Super Bowl team a year ago, now you're on the verge of being eliminated from the playoffs. Your feeling about the importance of today's game?
Well, this is it, Brent. We've got to win this ball game, and not only do we have to win this ball game, but we've got to win so decisively that on a short week, maybe Houston doesn't recover quite as well. And I don't mean hurting people, but I mean really having a physical football game because we got to hope next week that Cleveland can beat Houston as well. And one thing I know about Cleveland is they don't quit. So regardless of whether they're in it or out of it, they're going to be in for a battle next week as well.
Sam, I'm somewhat surprised at the inconsistency of the team at home this year. How about you?
Well, I'm surprised and disappointed like the ball club is. But, Brent, you know this game's an awfully close margin deal. And when you go into any ball game, one mistake here or there can make the difference. And that's what's happened to us this year.
Sam, last week there was the incident involving the press when you barred them from the locker room. Would you do it again?
It wasn't the first time that's been done. Marv Levy did it a few years ago when they had a fight in their locker room and they didn't think the press needed to be there. And I didn't think the press needed to be in our locker room in that state of mind. And I've asked Don, since he thought that this was worth $3,000 having to wait overnight, if they let me speak at their national convention this year, I'll charge them $3,000, give it to charity, and that way they can find out just what an ornery old son of a gun I am.
Don is Don Pearson of the Chicago Tribune. He is the president of the Football Writers Association. We are going to get to Weish in Cleveland soon. But Sam is not the only guy whose wallet's going to be a little lighter this Christmas time. Watch this NBA fight. It's a beaut. Charles Oakley of the Knicks and Xavier McDaniel of the Sonics, they squared off in the Garden last night, folks, and they meant business. Both were ejected. As they were leaving, McDaniel shouted to Oakley, "Let's take this out back." No word as to whether or not they did, but that's a heck of a lot better than Roberto Duran and Ray Leonard, I got to tell you.
Looks like the National Hockey League.
All right, now coming up, I mentioned Cleveland. We're going to hear what kind of things the city of Cleveland has to say about our buddy Sam Weish when the NFL Today continues live on CBS.
The NFL Today is sponsored by Radio Shack, your Christmas electronics toyland. Napa, because there are no unimportant parts. And by BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
In the realm of expensive motor cars, no amount of leather, wood, or paint, no matter how refined, no matter how polished, can distinguish one from another. In the end, what matters is the car beneath the luxury. And never before has anyone built a car that performs quite like the BMW 7 Series. even BMW.
Do you know what it's like to hear the cheers at the Rose Bowl as they rise up from 100,000 seats? Now you do. Adidas Aftershave and Cologne, the essence of sports.
A legend has been created. A better battery for the future. Better with more reserve power. Better with a warranty that lasts over 6 years. Better in price with a sale going on all through December. The Napa Legend. The better battery.
It's a Radio Shack Merry Christmas.
Thanks to Radio Shack, next year we'll be quieter around here. Speakers are half price, so Greg can rock in his room. And there's a $14.88 phone for Tina's private conversations. $8.95 action games for the carpool. Bob keeps busy with the mobile CB, just $79.95. And with a pocket calculator at $8.88, the savings add up. Thanks, Radio Shack.
The Christmas electronics sale, only at Radio Shack, the technology store.
Protect your gifts from the holiday crush. Now, when you use Gold MasterCard, you can get a special gift sticker to let friends and family know their gifts are covered by Master Purchase. Covered for 90 days against loss, theft, or breakage. If anything happens before or after you give the gift, one phone call will replace it. The gift sticker, only from Gold MasterCard. The best gold card to master the moment.
Well, make no bones about it, the Dog Pound is positively rabid this afternoon, barking and backing up their beloved Browns in today's must-win game against the Vikes. But the problem, Irv, is that some of those dogs skipped obedience school, at least the ones who've been throwing the biscuits and the batteries on the field.
That's right, Brent, but it's really unfortunate, too, because the behavior of those few fans has cast a negative light on all of Cleveland, at least in the eyes of Cincinnati coach Sam Weish.
Cleveland, city of light, city of magic.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati.
I hope you weren't slamming the entire city, Sam, for Cleveland is in fact a great town with a refined and sophisticated population. If it's culture you want, it's culture you get. They're building the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame here. But in the meantime, drop in and visit the Polka Hall of Fame to see the Babe Ruth of American polka, Frank Yankovic. But this week, wherever I went in Cleveland, whether on land or sea, folks were furious with Sam Weish and the city of Cincinnati.
I think it's great coming from a man who's in a town that gave baseball Pete Rose.
It's a beautiful city, actually, but it's the Queen City, and we are the King City of Ohio.
If you haven't come to Cleveland lately, you haven't been to Cleveland.
Sam Weish is jealous he don't live in Cleveland.
Meantime, back downstate, Weish was sticking to his guns.
We're not like the reputation that they have in Cleveland Stadium. We are a blue chip city here. We don't do those kind of things.
But in Cleveland, no explanation can reduce the sting of Weich's words.
No excuse for that at all, none whatsoever. He doesn't know Brown, real Browns fans.
But in their hearts, I suspect real Browns fans know Weish is right. It's okay to wear a mask and bark and yell at a game, but the throwing of objects that can injure people and disrupt play is totally out of bounds.
There's always, a couple people kind of ruin it for the rest of us and give the whole town a bad name.
I think you're only talking about 15 or 20 fans, and if I'm going to watch a game in Cleveland State, I want to watch it from the pound.
Would you consider the Cleveland Browns a work of art?
Oh, yeah, it's Beauty in Motion every Sunday afternoon down in Cleveland Stadium or on the TV screen.
But recently, the Browns have looked anything but artful. They're winless in the last 4 games. Their star quarterback, Bernie Kosar, has an ailing elbow. The play calling of offensive coordinator Mark Trestman has been criticized. And running back Kevin Mack has served prison time on a drug conviction. In fact, it's been a dog of a year for all of Cleveland's teams. In April, the Cavaliers were upset and eliminated from the playoffs. And as for the Indians, well... And here's the ultimate irony. In order to win their division, the Browns need help from none other than Sam Weich's Cincinnati Bengals, who must knock off Houston today.
We love Cincinnati, and we're rooting for them.
And if they can help us out, we might even get them Christmas presents.
Cincinnati beats Houston, and then Cleveland beats Minnesota. What are you going to do to celebrate on the boat?
Well, we're going to have a lot of laughs about this, but we do want to clarify that Sam Weiss told us again today that his comment about Cleveland was not meant really as a blanket condemnation of that city or its fans. He was referring specifically to those in the stands who were throwing objects on the field.
One thing we weren't going to have happen in Cincinnati is the bad PR that's created when you allow things to be thrown onto the field. I certainly didn't say anything against anybody in Cleveland. They've got some of the best fans in the country, support their team tremendously, but they have allowed, and there's no question about it, they allowed things to be thrown on that field and did nothing about it until they got some bad reputation out of it, bad image. And we didn't want that happening in Cincinnati.
Okay, I think we can all agree with that. Well, yesterday we took a look at your AFC coaches poll. Let's check in on the NFC coaches.
You're not buying Weiss. That's a cop-out. Because when they put 80,000 people in the stadium in Cleveland, nobody's left on the street. That's the entire population. But yesterday we did the AFC poll, Brent, and it was kind of close, a lot of names in it, but not in the NFC today. Let's look at the coach of the year. A good race here. George Seifert of San Francisco, Lindy Infante of Green Bay, probably the way it should be. But the other category, offensive player of the year, defensive player, rookie. Look at it. Joe Montana dominates. He gets every vote because you couldn't vote for somebody in your own team. Now let's go to the defensive player. Keith Millard dominates, 11 out of the 14 votes. And, of course, the guy that should get rookie of the year, nobody else, Barry Sanders. The only vote to Deion Sanders. And Wayne Font says, you know, I really want to vote for my own Sanders, but I'll make it another Sanders so it sounds like my guy.
Do you agree with all that?
Well, yeah, except I didn't see any votes for Buddy Ryan as coach of the year. Can you count for that?
Oh. Why would you ask?
Well,
Philadelphia guy, I'm shocked.
Wow, look what the Eagles are doing. Gee,
well, the thing about Seifert, you know, well, he had a good team and this and that, but the way he had prepared a team during the week and focused on each game, I think he did a great job because it's so easy.
I'll throw something out. How much of that is a negative Bill Walsh vote, that they felt he got too much credit for the success of that team and now another coach has stepped in there?
Well, I think that most of it is realizing how tough it is to bring a team back after Super Bowl when you usually have a lot of problems, the guys are complacent. He credited Walsh all year. He never took a shot at Walsh Seifert, and for that, I give him a lot of credit. He just said, hey, Bill gave me the job, we're just going forward.
Yeah, there's some other coaching news. I want to check in with you, Will, and we'll have that. Will's inside look around the league when we continue live in just a moment.
This is really weird. I have to shampoo a lot. And every time I do, my hair gets wet, but my scalp gets dry. It's tight and itchy. The more I shampoo, the drier it can get. Now, I can't stop shampooing, but I can use this. New dry scalp shampoo from Head & Shoulders. Made a different way, so it doesn't dry out your scalp like those other guys can. Try Head & Shoulders new dry scalp shampoo and help wipe out dry scalp.
Users of ordinary nasal sprays will do almost anything to keep the spray up in their nose, where it can work. Which is why so many people now use Sinex Ultrafine Mist. It's twice as fine as ordinary sprays, so its medicine goes up and stays up to give you the best relief possible. You don't have to stand on your head to get relief. Just get Sinex Ultrafine Mist. When issues of agility and precision take on special urgency, we recommend the BMW 5 Series. Its unparalleled defense system is designed to help you emerge unscathed from a hostile world.
In business today, it's hard to compete when your computers are obsolete. How are you gonna do it? How? You're gonna PS2 it with the IBM PS2. System that feels right at home with what you already own. A system that grows in an organized way. A link to the future today. How are you gonna do it? Well, you're gonna PS2 it. The solution is IBM.
Well, some great careers are winding down these December days. Brown tight end Ozzie Newsome, he was honored just moments ago in Cleveland. He's going to be calling it a career at the end of this season. And here are 5 others who are pondering retirement, and some good names there, too. Now, some late-breaking news regarding Mike Shanahan. Is he or isn't he going to Kentucky?
He isn't going to Kentucky, Brent. You know, he said in the show yesterday he had the job if he wanted it, but before he'd take it, he wanted to talk to Denver owner Pat Bowlen, and of course Dan Reeves, the head coach, after Denver played yesterday. Well, Kentucky scheduled a press conference for right now, but instead they're going to have come out and say, hey, we're just going to form a committee to look for a new coach because Mike called up last night and said, I can't take the job. Now, I understand from Mike's friends what happened was Pat Bowlen and Reeves talked to him after the game and said, you could have a great future here. In fact, you know, Dan's going to retire someday, and you could be the guy. They didn't promise him the job, but they led him to believe he's going to have a great future in Denver, so he's going to stay with the Broncos.
You know, Will, Broncos got help from a rookie, Bobby Humphrey, supplemental draft. How about the list of the seniors who are eligible? We've talked a lot about underclassmen, but what about the guys who are coming out for sure?
Well, you know, Brent, there were 2 big scouting combine meetings this week in the country. Virtually all the teams were involved. And what they do is grade the players like after the college version of the regular season. And here are some of the guys who will be in the top 10. Remember now, these are seniors, and of course one of the things discussed in these meetings were the possibility of juniors that might come out. There's the second half of the top 10 right there. These people think that anywhere from 20 to 40 underclassmen might come out next year, and if they do, there could be a problem. Like Mike Lynn of the Vikings told me if that many come out, he thinks Paul Tagliabue, the commissioner, should definitely go to court and try to stop it.
Hard to deny the right to make a living under our current laws, but that'll be interesting. What about Plan B free agency? A lot of teams did get help that way last year.
They did. And in the mail right now are letters from the NFL office. The teams are going to get them tomorrow morning saying officially we are going to have Plan B free agency again next year. On February 1st, you're going to have to protect 37 players and let the others go to free agency. And when I left here yesterday, I went over and watched the Cowboy game at Giant Stadium. Jerry Jones, their owner, told me we're going to go big into the Plan B market because some teams last year helped themselves that way.
Coaching market, Will. What about Atlanta?
Well, I think Atlanta, you know, they're talking to Steve Spurrier, but what they're going to do, from what I understand, is wait until the season is over so they can talk to some top NFL assistants. And what they really want to do down there is find an offensive type of coach that can work with their young quarterback, Chris Miller, and bring him around.
All right, and we're going to continue live with the NFL Today on CBS in just a moment.
You told me you would meet me at the station gate.
Oh, but I'm moving further. You told me you would meet me at the station gate, but I got a different version. Train number 1 back. Train number 2 back. Train number 3 going back. How long must I wait for you?
Arrow shirts. We've loosened our collar.
Hero Cologne for Men.
After you've tasted the turkey, packed in the potatoes, and crammed the cranberries, why don't you work on the rolls? The DP ergometer. No more excuses, America.
Wrap up holiday shopping at True Value Hardware stores, where this ITT Trendline phone with last number redial is just $24.88. And this Daisy 6-quart Chef's Pot Plus with utensils is just $29.99. Then give them the wraparound massager with 2 soothing speeds. It's the Polonex Twist for just $19.99 at participating True Value Hardware stores and home centers.
In the realm of expensive motor cars, no amount of leather, wood, or paint, no matter how refined, no matter how polished, can distinguish one from another. In the end, what matters is the car beneath the luxury. And never before has anyone built a car that performs quite like the BMW 7 Series. Not even BMW.
Well, it turns out that the Vikes are more than prepared for today's trip to the dog pound in Cleveland. In fact, as Dick found out, the Minnesota's killer defensive line should feel right at home.
Keith Millard we talked to as a shepherd, a German shepherd, kind of like a guard dog, and he'll attack you on sight. Dolman as the Doberman pincher, because he is a vicious guy coming around that backside and slapping the ball out of the quarterback's hand. Nogue is our pit bull. He'll hang on to you real tight.
All that may be so, Floyd, but watch out. There's one Cleveland Kennel Club with designs on your dogs.
This is how we handle stray dogs in the city of Cleveland. We snare them, we lock them up.
Well, if they can catch us, so be it. But I think they better keep them real close to Bernie Kosar, because that's probably where we're gonna be come Sunday.
So it's barking time in Cleveland. Enjoy the game, everybody. We'll see you back here at halftime.
Tonight, high-pressure politics.
23-22 in favor of Cleveland. 5 seconds left. First down, Cleveland 46. 3 wide receivers right, Kramer back to pass. He's going deep down the right side, and it is fought for, and it's touchdown! Rashawn! I don't believe it! The Vikings are in the playoffs! 9:45.
The Minnesota Vikings have not laid claim to a Central Division title since that game in 1980. The cold, rugged look that the Vikings once fashioned has changed to a quicker, sleeker, and more explosive style. And now the streamlined Vikings are ready to leap into the 90s. A December winter storm has turned the NFL's oldest stadium into a frozen tundra. And now, in the house of slaughter, Webster that is, the Cleveland Browns must rise to the occasion and keep their playoff hopes alive. When you play in Cleveland Stadium, you must battle the elements. And today, Minnesota will find that only the strong survive. Cleveland Stadium is sold out, just under 80,000 for this important matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Cleveland Browns. Weather is a story. 10 inches of snow fell in the Cleveland area on Friday. This morning it was -7, the coldest it's been in nearly 40 years. But the fans have come prepared. The temperature right now is up to 10 degrees, the wind chill -18, and the field is solid frozen. The Minnesota Vikings are fully aware that a victory for them today or a loss by the Packers against the Bears will give them that division championship. And in the AFC, the Cleveland Browns do not control their own destiny. They need a victory desperately today and a Houston loss to Cincinnati to just keep them alive until the final weekend next Sunday. Hello again, everyone. I'm Dick Stockton along with Dan Fouts. This game is truly a throwback. We were talking about before the age of indoor stadium and artificial turf. That's what we have today. And in talking to Jerry Burns and all the Minnesota Vikings yesterday, what were your impressions for them coming into this game, Dan?
Well, when you combine the fact that they have the #1 defense in the league and this field and the wind chill factor and the wind and everything, the problem is going to be the defense. Can the Cleveland Browns get any offense going against Dolman and Millard? But the one uneasy feeling I have coming into this ball game is, do the Vikings want it as bad as the Browns do? Remember, the Vikings have 2 shots at that magic #1.
Now, the Browns don't have 2 shots at all, and the problem for them has been a desperately terrible offense the last 4 weeks. They have tied 1 and lost 3. Bernie Kosar is starting at quarterback. They thought about Mike Cagle. Kosar starts for the Browns. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Bud Carson will not hesitate to change Bernie Kosar if he gets off to a slow start. But the Browns have great defense as well, but it's a key for Bernie Kosar to be the starter, Dave, because he's going up against the best defense in the entire league.
And the Browns have won the toss. There is Rich Carlos, barefoot and all, will be kicking off. Eric Metcalf, the impressive rookie, is deep for the Browns. And we're underway, and it'll be Metcalf inside the 10. Metcalf with a terrific return brings it out close to the 40-yard line, where Mark Dusbabek makes the stop for the Vikings, a 30-yard return. Bernie Kosar, who is second to Steve DeBerg of Kansas City in completion percentage in the AFC, leads the Browns. The offensive line: Paul Farron, Ted Banker, Greg Rakosi, Tony Jones, and Cody Risen. Ozzie Newsome is the tight end, playing his last home game. Metcalf and Tim Manoa in the backfield. Webster Slaughter and Reggie Langhorne, the wide receivers. It'll be 1st and 10. And carrying the ball is Barry Redden, who starts, and we'll see a lot of action at the tailback position. Keith Millard. An impressive front four for Minnesota: Al Noga, Henry Thomas, Millard, and Chris Dolman. The linebackers are Mike Merriweather, Scott Studwell, and Ray Berry. The secondary: Carl Lee and Reggie Rutland are the cornerbacks, Joey Browner and Travis Curtis the safeties. It'll be 2nd down and 11 for the Browns. Metcalf in motion. Kosar to the air, hits Metcalf, and he ducks forward to the 43-yard line. Will bring up 3rd and about 5 or 6. Scott Studwell makes the tackle for the Vikings.
I think we've seen already how the Browns want to use Eric Metcalf this afternoon, obviously returning kicks, but also as a pass receiver. They feel that if they can get him isolated outside against a strong safety like Joey Browner, that they like their chances.
Eric Metcalf, who's having a terrific rookie year, the leading receiver of all rookie running backs in the league. Darrell Fullington is a nickel back. It's 3rd down and 5 for the Browns. And Kosar will call a timeout. He checked the defense, and the clock was running down.
Yeah, he checked the defense and then checked the clock, saw that it only had 5 seconds on the play clock, and he was forced to call a timeout. Big part of the Browns offense is Kosar reading defenses and then getting to the proper audible.
Bud Carson, the head coach, Mark Trestman, the offensive coordinator, and the Browns have used a timeout. The first year as offensive coordinator is Mark Trestman, who was with Bernie Kosar at Miami and has come under fire because of the terrible offense the Browns have experienced.
He is the man on the hot seat today, and there's a lot of question as to whether he'll be back in that position next year. Not on the hot seat, but as offensive coordinator.
4 wide receivers on 3rd down and 5. Kosar has protection, and his pass is incomplete. It was intended for Reggie Langhorne. And that will bring up 4th down, and the Browns will have to kick it away.
But what we've seen so far is a couple of passes by the Browns, and the front four of the Vikings has not gotten anywhere near Bernie Kosar. Very tough to rush the passer on an icy field like we have today.
Brian Wagner will kick. He's had 24 of his punts inside the opposition 20-yard line. That's Leo Lewis standing back to receive for the Vikings. Vikings are 1-1 on grass fields this year, winning at Tampa Bay and losing at Green Bay.
Not sure you could classify this as a grass field today, though.
Leo Lewis. It's hit. A 41-yard kick by Wagner. And so the Vikings will get their first opportunity with Wade Wilson, who has 7 touchdown passes and 12 interceptions. Yet the Vikings are in first place in the Central Division. The offensive line for Minnesota: Gary Zimmerman, Randall McDaniel, Kirk Loudermilk, Todd Kalis, and Tim Irwin. Steve Jordan, the tight end. Herschel Walker and Rick Fenney begin in the backfield. Anthony Carter and Hassan Jones, the wide receivers. We'll see Gustafson as another wide receiver, and Anderson as well. 1st and 10 on the 20-yard line. Walker goes in motion outside. Wilson, flush from the pocket, and the ball intended for Carter is tipped away, and a fine play made by Mike Johnson, the linebacker.
Oh, it was deflected up in the air, and Thane Gash came within an eyelash of picking it off. There's the middle linebacker, Mike Johnson. He gets there as the ball does. Nice job of knocking the ball up in the air, and look how close Gash gets to it as he puts just his left hand on it.
2nd down and 10, and of course, you're not surprised that the Vikings will put the ball up in the air even in these weather conditions.
Well, Bob Schnelker, that's his philosophy. The worse the weather, the more he wants to throw it.
2nd down, Rick Penny, coming off his best day as a pro, goes nowhere. Barely back to the line of scrimmage. Van Waiters makes the tackle. Here's the Browns defensive unit. Talk about the Vikings defense, the Browns, another tough defensive group. Al Baker, Carl Hairston, Michael Dean Perry, and Robert Banks, the front four. Clay Matthews, Mike Johnson, Van Waiters moves into the linebacker spot. Frank Minifield and Mark Harper, who's in for Dixon at cornerback. Felix Wright and Thane Gash are the safeties. It'll be 3rd and 10. Wilson with time. Runs and just gets a couple. Robert Lyons, one of the nickel backs for the Browns, makes the stop. So each team has had a chance, and now it'll be Minnesota's turn to kick it away.
The Browns excel at the nickel defense. That time they only had 3 down linemen in the game to rush the passer. In fact, they took out one of their best pass rushers in Bubba Baker. Their philosophy is to drop 7 or 8 men and make Wilson try to make the big throw in the zones.
Gerald McNeil goes deep for the Browns. And Bucky Scribner will be punting for the Vikings. End-over-end kick, and the Browns are going to let it bounce. They'll get good field position no matter when it stops. And it is down by the Vikings. And they will mark the ball at about the 36-yard line. A 39-yard kick. They've come prepared, the fans, for the cold and inclement weather. 10 degrees in Cleveland. The wind normally blows heavily off of Lake Erie, but right now the wind is not a factor as the Browns get set to go on offense in good field position for the 2nd time.
One of the things these fellas on the sidelines have to be careful of is not to catch these capes on fire on those gas heaters. A lot of times those guys will try to get so close to the heater that the capes will start to melt.
Sort of a different version of the hot foot. Bernie Kosar, he too has come under fire along with Mark Trestman and Bud Carson for the Browns' inability to mount an offense as of late. They start from the 38-yard line. Kevin Mack is in the backfield. On 1st down, Kosar's pass is caught. Reggie Langhorne makes the reception, and it'll be enough for a Browns 1st down just shy of midfield. Good for 12 yards. Carl Lee makes the stop.
Well, Reggie Langhorne is the Browns' possession receiver. He should be featured quite a bit today because teams like to double the other wide receiver, Webster Slaughter. But Kosar, under heavy pressure from Henry Thomas, put the ball right on the money.
Reggie Langhorne. A terrific season. Webster Slaughter has been their ace, however. Barry Redden and Tim Manoa, a new set of backs in there. 1st and 10 at midfield for Cleveland. Kosar going deep on 1st down, and he overthrows the intended receiver, Webster Slaughter. Double covered that back there by Reggie Rutland and Travis Curtis.
Well, Slaughter really is their long ball threat. He has receptions this year of 97, 80, and 77 yards. So he obviously will have the attention of the secondary of the Vikings.
2 scores we'll be watching closely today, of course, will be the Green Bay-Chicago game and the Houston-Cincinnati battle. And, of course, the Bengals have jumped up in front of Houston 7-0, which is good news for the Browns. 2nd down and 10. Kosar gets a rush that time, and Langhorne makes another reception. It'll be good for a 5-yard pickup. He was hit hard by Carl Lee, and that's the 2nd catch for Langhorne.
Langhorne comes in motion here across the backfield set, and Kozar goes to him all the way. Nice pick job by Ozzie Newsome, but look at the grab right in the hands, and then Carl Lee drives him down to this icy field. This field is as hard as concrete.
Normally, there are some soft spots, normally where the old baseball infield would be, but not today. He took the tarp off earlier and tried to sand some of the yard lines. It is now 3rd down and 5. 4 wide receivers for the Browns. Kozar flips it out to Redden. Incomplete. And that'll bring up 4th down. So the Browns got into Viking territory. Couple of receptions, and they'll have to kick it away. Brian Wagner comes into the game, and again Leo Lewis goes deep for the Vikings. No one expected a high-scoring affair today.
Field position is really going to be a key today, and so far the Browns have had it. Now it's up to this man Brian Wagner to pin the Vikings deep in their own end.
Leo Lewis, the Vikings practiced outdoors most of this past week. High snap. Fair catch called for by Lewis, and he's got it at the 12-yard line. So once again, the Browns have pinned the Vikings in as Minnesota goes on offense for the 2nd time in a scoreless first quarter.
Cincinnati 7, Houston nothing.
No score here in Cleveland. We know about Bernie Kozar's elbow problems, but he also has a hand injury, and it's already bleeding early in this game, Dan.
Noticed yesterday talking to him that he had this scab on his hand, and he has not been pressured that much, but when Henry Thomas got to him the one time, drove him to the ground and broke that scab, and he's bleeding.
Wade Wilson brings out the Vikings from their 13-yard line. Operating from the I formation, the pitch to Herschel Walker, and his first carry of the game gets him nothing. Browns figure that Walker should be a big threat today. Michael Dean Perry makes the stop.
But that's one thing the Browns want to do with Herschel Walker today, is try to surround him and then reduce his enthusiasm, in the words of strong safety Felix Wright. Now I said, what do you mean reduce his enthusiasm? Well, we're just going to try and hit him with everything we got, make him start thinking about that bad foot, make him start thinking about the bad weather, and make him start thinking about how ineffective he's been the last couple of weeks.
He's had a dislocated toe, didn't play last week, lost the yard, 2nd down and 11, and the quick handoff that time to Rick Fenny, and again the Browns stopped the run as they've had most of the season. Last couple of weeks, however, a couple of runners, Barry Sanders and Eric Dickerson, got big games, but normally the Browns snuff him out.
Well, Big Daddy Carl Hairston, he's a veteran, and now what the Vikings want to do is they want to try and trap. You see the cross blocking in the middle there. Randall McDaniel came across, tried to knock Big Daddy away, but Hairston's seen so many traps in his day, there was nothing there for Fenny.
Hanford Dixon did not start. He hasn't been into the game yet. 3rd down and 10 on the 13. Wade Wilson has time. Penalty marker down. Hassan Jones, the intended receiver, and the pass is incomplete. Tony Blaylock knocked the ball away, but there's a flag down, and we'll hear from the referee, Fred Wyant. It'll be against the Vikings, holding, and half the distance, but it'll be 4th down.
Holding, number 63, declined, 4th down.
Kirk Loudermilk, the center. Jerry Burns shaking his head on the Minnesota sideline.
Well, he's seen Loudermilk get called for holding calls a lot lately. 2 last week in the first quarter against Atlanta, and now 1 here in the first quarter. So he doesn't want to see any more of that from his center.
Bucky Scribner will be kicking from a yard in the end zone, keeping his hands as warm as he can. There's Gerald McNeil. Fair catch, and McNeil will field the ball in Minnesota territory at the 48. The kick went 35 yards. Each team has not been able to move the ball, but Bud Carson's Browns have had the big edge in field position, something you mentioned moments ago.
Well, and it all goes back to the opening kickoff when Metcalf had the nice return. Since that point, not a whole lot of offense, but the field position now, the Browns will take over inside of the Viking territory because they've been able to punt the ball back and forth and get the edge that way.
Talked about the wind, which has not been a big factor thus far. Normally the wind affects passes out on the flat, the left or the right flat.
And it affects the field goal kickers a great deal.
Eric Metcalf at the top of your picture. 1st and 10 at the 48. Kevin Mack. Good second effort by Mack. Gets the ball to the 44-yard line. Henry Thomas and Keith Millard make the stop.
We'll see a lot of the big backs that they like to call them here in Cleveland now. Kevin Mack, Barry Redden, and Tim Manoa, because Bud Carson feels that that really is the personality of his offensive football team, and they just discovered it very recently. Eric Metcalf is more of a scat back and third down back, and a guy that he wants to use today as a receiver, so we'll see the big fellas in there.
2nd down and 7 after a gain of 3. On the draw play, here's Kevin Mack. And Mack, close to first down yardage, is finally hit at the 40. Scott Studwell and Joey Browner, but Mack looking good. He had a key fumble last week against the Colts, but running hard here in the first quarter. Short by about a yard.
Mack on the draw play here, and this is what he gives the Browns, the ability to break tackles and make extra yard after he gets contact. There's Henry Thomas with one hand, and look how he just bowls over Ray Berry and gets up close to the first down.
3rd down and 2 at the 40. Tim Manoa in motion, and Mack gets thrown for a loss. Loss of a couple. Ray Berry with another fine play. Ray Berry, his play has been a key to the Herschel Walker deal because Jesse Solomon and David Howard were dealt to Dallas, giving Berry a starting role, and he's delivered.
Well, and Berry gave Kevin Mack the old payback. We saw Mack knock Berry down, and now Berry comes right through there and drops Mack for a big loss there. And again, Ryan Wagner will have to punt the Vikings deep in their own end.
Brian Wagner will kick again. And Leo Lewis back to the 10-yard line. Fair catch for Lewis. And he makes a tough running catch at the 15-yard line. And right now, for an NFL Today update, some of the important games going on, here's Brent Musburger in New York.
All right, Dick, the big one as far as Viking fans are concerned, and they're getting help. This was their first touchdown. Keith Woodside with a spectacular run. It was 7-0. Then the Bears came back and tied it. Now, just seconds ago, the Packers are in again. They lead it right now, 13-7. Back to Dick.
All right, Brett, thank you very much. Puts more pressure on the shoulders of Minnesota. They have the ball 1st and 10 on the 15-yard line. Wade Wilson, straight back, drills it, and the pass is caught by Steve Jordan, the tight end. And the biggest gain of the first quarter of 21 yards, and the Vikings carry it out beyond the 35-yard line. The free safety Thane Gash made the stop.
Viking offensive line gave Wilson great protection that time, and that was a long pass down the field for the tight end. But the field position, as we talked about, is going to be very important. So far, Cleveland has not been able to capitalize on the fact that they've been taken over almost at midfield.
Chris Pike is in the game, replacing Carl Hashton, number 75, at tackle. 1st and 10 at the 37 for Minnesota. There's the pitch. Walker, and the Browns gang up on him again. Mike Johnson was the first man to get to him.
This is one of the problems the Vikings have had all year with Herschel Walker, is the fact that he has not run the ball well laterally. When he gets his speed up going north and south on the football field, he's a lot more effective. But there is the gang tackling again by the Browns, trying to reduce some of that enthusiasm.
He gained 148 yards, Dan, in his first effort, but you see, as the season has gone on, his effort has dwindled, and now they are going away from directing their offense toward Walker and making him adjust to them. 2nd down and 11. Design rollout. for Wade Wilson. The pass intended for Hassan Jones was low, and Frank Minifield was the defender on the play, and that'll bring up third down.
One thing that's always puzzled me about Bob Schnelker and his play selection is why he doesn't get the ball more often to Anthony Carter. I played with a couple of guys with the same type of talents in San Diego, namely John Jefferson and Wes Chandler. And we always felt that if we could get those two guys going early in the ball game, that they would give us a tremendous emotional lift. Anthony Carter is a very talented man and one that seems to play well in these types of games.
Third down and 11. Alfred Anderson is the running back. Wilson under pressure gets rid of it and throws it away. No receiver near the ball. And that'll bring up fourth down. The Browns went to a three-man defensive line and dropped back 8 on the long yardage situation. And so once again, we'll have a punt coming up, and it looks like Bucky Scribner and Brian Wagner will be the busiest guys out there today.
A lot of disagreement on the sidelines. There's Wade Wilson talking to Bob Schnelker in the tan jacket. Also Tommy Kramer there. They're discussing that last play and maybe a couple coming up.
Scribner will kick. Gerald McNeil gets by one defender, brings it out again to the 36 or 7-yard line. Audrey McMillan makes the tackle, a 9-yard return, and there's a penalty marker down on our second flag of the game.
Now, if there's going to be a star on this field today, it's got to be a guy with the nickname of the Ice Cube. Gerald McNeil. He's got a lot of company, doesn't he?
And a lot of ice cubes out there.
Personal foul, number 60, face mask, 15 yards, first down.
Mark Rodenhauser with a face mask penalty against the Vikings. So once again, the Cleveland Browns have had the luxury of great field position in this first quarter, but have not been able to take advantage of it. On a frigid Sunday in Cleveland, Cleveland Stadium sold out. Dick Stockton and Dan Fouts, as the Cleveland Browns, trying to survive, need a victory and some help if they are to win the division and get a wild card berth. Minnesota needing a victory to wrap up the Central Division in a scoreless game. We have had a punting duel thus far, but the field position has heavily favored the Browns, who will start from the Viking 49.
We got a problem with one of the heaters on the sidelines too. The mechanics are trying to get it fired up. The Browns are down to 2 heaters.
Ricky Bolden replaces Ted Banker at left guard. First down for Bernie Kosar. The pass is batted down at the line of scrimmage. Incomplete. It was Henry Thomas. That'll bring up second down. The Vikings are depending on the pass rush against Kosar, who is not a mobile quarterback by any means.
Well, you know, and Henry Thomas, he's really the fourth wheel in this group here. The teams talk about, their opponents talk about, well, they got Chris Dolman and they got Keith Millard and Al Noga, and then they got some guy named number 97.
Who's in demand by several clubs. Dallas wouldn't mind getting number 97. Second down and 10. Kevin Mack gets maybe a yard or two. Mack did not carry the ball until early December. He had arthroscopic knee surgery and was in jail for 30 days after pleading guilty to a drug charge. The Browns had expected his services all year because he was the big back that they expected production from.
Played with Kevin Mack in a Pro Bowl, and he is a talented young man. He's got his life straightened out now, and the Browns are really hoping for a big contribution. He is the big back on this type of field that they need to be effective running the ball.
Third down and 8. Moving Keith Millard around on the defensive line for Minnesota. Kosar wings it, incomplete. Pass was low, intended for Reggie Langhorne. That'll bring up fourth down.
The big problem Kosar had that time, he wasn't able to step up into the pocket because Chris Dolman was coming. Dolman is at number 56 from the right side of our screen. He comes inside against Paul Farron, and there he is just hitting Kosar, who was unable to step up.
Dolman coming in with 17 sacks
But did you notice how Kozar fell on his elbow? That's been a problem for him the last couple of weeks. A lot of swelling in that right elbow.
7th punt of the game coming up already. Brian Wagner kicking. Leo Lewis is deep. Lewis is going to let it roll, and the Browns will down it at about the 17-yard line. Mike Oliphant, kick went 30 yards. Scores important today in Week 15. Packers lead the Bears 14-7 in the first quarter. Cincinnati over Houston 14-0, and they're announcing, and on purpose, only if Cincinnati's leading to the crowd here in the game.
And they've announced at one time when it was 7-0, the place went crazy. We should expect to hear this 14-0 score pretty soon. Art Modell's pulling out all the stops today.
Vikings have not had good field position in their possession. Start from their 17. Pitches to Rick Fenny. Cuts upfield nicely, and a nice gain by Fenny. May have enough for the first down, and he does. Tackled by Robert Banks.
Fenny is the back on this side. Wilson's going to turn and toss it to him. Now watch number 30, Thane Gash here. As Fenny breaks his tackle, now gets up the field and punishes the strong safety Eric Wright. Fenny is again a throwback to the Bill Brown and Dave Osborne days.
Coming off a career-high 89 against Atlanta last week. On first down, Herschel Walker picks up a couple of yards to the 31-yard line. Gain of 3. Reggie Rutland on the sideline and the defensive back. Banks makes the stop.
Make that Bill Brown. The old Viking fullback, number 30, with the crew cut.
That's when they used to play at Metropolitan Stadium, and you could see the steam coming out of their mouths when they used to play at that stadium before they went indoors. 2nd down and 7. Here's Fenny. That's the kind of running attack the Vikings like to run, the traps, more than out of the eye, and that was Mike Johnson making the stop. So the Vikings keeping the ball effectively on the ground will have 3rd and short coming up at the 37-yard line.
It was about 3 weeks ago that head coach Jerry Burns and his coordinator Bob Schnelker put their heads together and figured out, hey, listen, we got to get back to what we do best, and that's our offense. That's throwing the ball to these talented wide receivers and running traps and draws, and we'll just let Herschel catch up to us next season.
3rd and 1. Fenny, and Fenny's going to be stopped as the Browns clog the middle, and with help from free safety Thane Gash, who supported the run. Van Waiters also involved.
A real battle up front here between Tim Irwin, number 76, and number 60 of the Browns, Bubba Baker, and that's where they're running this ball. Great job, though, by Clay Matthews as he broke inside and kept Herschel Walker from putting a good block on him and was in on the tackle. Another all-pro play for Clay Matthews.
They're going to measure. Vikings have had terrible starting position so far in this game. They're short by basically a yard, and that'll bring up 4th down, and enter Bucky Scribner for another kick. Bud Carson, his first year, toiled as a defensive coordinator for many pro clubs to great success.
Bucky Scribner in formation.
Jerry Burns, who likes to leave most of the work in the hands of his coordinator. Schnelker on the offense, Floyd Peters on the defense.
And when you ask Jerry Burns what are his worries today, he said, well, more the things that are out of our control, like the weather, the field condition, and just the plain bounce of the ball.
Talk about bounce of the ball. That ball bounced. Short end-over-end kick. McNeil will let it drop, and it'll be down by the Vikings at the 28-yard line by John Galvin. That kick went 35 yards.
Nice job of Scribner getting down like a shortstop, keeping the ball in front of him. Low snap from his center, Rodenhauser, and he just got it away. The Browns did not come with any pressure at all, or they might have blocked that one.
And you would figure, Dan, in a game like this, deflections, tips, bad snaps, turnovers are going to be a big factor and probably will decide the game, not to mention the field goal kicker.
All those things that you really can't prepare for during the week.
Browns with their worst starting position of the game thus far, their own 29-yard line. 22 seconds remain in the first quarter. No score. Kevin Mack just beyond the 30. Scott Studwell and Chris Dolman combined to make the stop. Browns have averaged only 9 points a game in their last 4 contests. They were 7-3 at one point, riding high. They tied Kansas City here and then lost their last 3. And that ends the first quarter here at Cleveland Stadium. No score between the Minnesota Vikings and the Cleveland Browns.
Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Subaru. We built our reputation by building a better car. Prudential Bates Securities, rock solid, market wise. And by Tots, the premium champagne.
Welcome back to Cleveland Stadium. Well, there's a Viking getting his feet warm, but they already took a heater away, didn't they?
Well, this is from the Cleveland sideline, so we've seen that the Browns have had the edge in field position, but the Vikings have got one more heater than the Browns do. That's a wacko heater. What a wacko day.
At least the sun is out, and for some of the fans and the bleachers in the upper deck, they're getting a little sunshine for a while anyway. Start of the second quarter, 2nd down and 8, and an audible call at the line by Bernie Kosar. Kosar has it tipped again. They have not gotten to Kosar, but they have pressured him a couple of times and a couple of tipped balls. Keith Millard got in his face that time.
Well, Bernie is 6'5", and he gets a lot of balls knocked down at the line of scrimmage because as you watch him deliver this ball, look how low it comes. He is a sidearm slinger, and that's why he gets so many balls knocked down at the line of scrimmage. And coming into a ball game like this, the Vikings defensive line knows that. They have very good athletes there on that line. And so if they can't get to Kosar, they're looking at him, putting their hands up, and trying to knock it down.
He's missed his last 4 passes. 3rd and 8 out of the shotgun. Here comes Millard, and it's knocked away by Thomas. That's the second tip ball by Thomas today, and that'll bring up 4th down. And Kosar's problem that he can't get the ball beyond the line of scrimmage. And now the Browns will have to punt again.
Well, this is that old number 97 again. They're going to try and set up a screen by the Browns to Kevin Mack out to the left side. And there's Henry Thomas just coming up like a basketball player, blocking the pass.
Millard coming in on a stunt. It's 4th down. Wagner in to kick again. Leo Lewis back deep for the Vikings. Fine kick by Wagner. Lewis with the return. And the Vikings will have pretty good field position for the first time today, but there's a penalty marker down. Keith Jones made the stop for the Browns. That kick went 46 yards and a penalty. It's almost like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop in this kind of game.
Illegal block in the back, number 26. First down.
Andre McMillan, and this was really the block. It appeared was after Leo Lewis had gone by him. Number 26 for the Vikings there, blocking Oliphant right in the back, and that did spring Lewis, but now it all comes back to the 20.
So cancel out what would have been decent field position for the Vikings, and timeout will return. Well, the Minnesota Vikings have a magic number of 1. They need a win or a Green Bay loss. The 49ers have clinched the home field. Giants clinched the playoff berth yesterday. Washington and Green Bay must win today. In the AFC, Denver has the home field all the way. Houston can clinch it today. 10 teams are alive for the 4 playoff berths. Now, for the scores that affect today's game, Chicago and Green Bay are tied in the second quarter. But look at this one. Cincinnati 21, Houston nothing. What about the Cleveland Browns? What an opportunity they have right now, Dan.
Well, they really do, and they've played good football so far. It's been a battle of field position right now. They've got the Vikings backed up.
Vikings start from their best starting position, and the first pass is tipped and caught by Steve Jordan, the tight end, and his second reception. He caught one in the first quarter for 21 yards. This is good for 15 yards and a first down for Minnesota.
I think everybody in the league thinks that Minnesota has the most talented players on their football team, and this gives you an indication of the athletic ability of Steve Jordan, as Wade Wilson had no business trying to get that ball into him. Throws it over Mike Johnson's hands, and Jordan comes up with the big grab.
Fumbled it out of bounds, still Minnesota ball. First down on the 35 of the Vikings. Wilson rolls out, and the pass intended again for Jordan, off his fingertips, incomplete. For an update, let's check in now with Brent Musburger in New York. Brent?
All right, Dick, here's the touchdown pass by the Chicago Bears, and if the Bears win, Vikings are in regardless of what happens. Neil Anderson's got it in the end zone. Pretty catch, 21 yards, 14 all. Back to Dick.
Thanks, Brennan. A good point by you, Dan. The fact that Minnesota really has 4 shots. They win either today or next week, or Green Bay could lose today or next week, and they're in.
And the Browns PA announcer ought to announce that score so the Vikings hear it and maybe relax a little bit.
That's right. 2nd and 10. Wilson. Pass intended for Hassan Jones and covered well by Mark Harper. That'll bring up 3rd down. Harper, who's been an outstanding nickel defensive back for the Browns, starting in place of Hanford Dixon.
But this is a good matchup for the Vikings because Hassan Jones is a 6-footer, whereas Mark Harper is only 5'9". This ball is very catchable, goes right through Jones's hands, but look for the Vikings to try to take advantage of that height edge that they have at wide receiver.
6 defensive backs for Cleveland on 3rd and 10. Hand off to Herschel Walker. And Walker is going to fight his way out close to first down yardage, and he may have it just at the 46-yard line. Clay Matthews makes the stop on a fine call by Wade Wilson on 3rd and long.
Very, very difficult to pick up 10 yards on a draw play, but Herschel showed you his type of strength by breaking through those tackles and getting the first down. Playing on that bad foot. He's got a steel insole that he wears not only in his football shoe, but in his street shoes as well.
Number 33 next to Walker is Jesse Clark, who knows what it's like to play in this kind of weather with Green Bay. Dropped by the Cardinals, a free agent pickup. On the draw play, Walker. And Van Waiters knocks him back, loose ball. Still Minnesota's possession. Van Waiters starting in place of the injured David Grayson with a big stop on Herschel Walker.
Well, you talked about Jesse Clark coming into the game. Here is Clark, and he is blocking on Waiters, or trying to. Watch Waiters avoid the block and make the tackle and then pop the ball loose. This is close to being a fumble. That is a fumble. But the whistle must have blown when Walker's forward progress was stopped.
It was a fumble, and the Browns had recovered. There's the whistle, and Wilson getting away from a rush. Penalty marker down. Trying to get away desperately, incomplete. Closest receiver was Herschel Walker, and great pressure by Michael Dean Perry, who's been an outstanding pass rusher, and the Vikings are called for holding.
They'll take this. The Browns will accept this penalty and bring up a 2nd and about 20. 2nd and 19. A lot of pressure
Bob Schnelker's history and the Vikings, whenever they've had second and third and long, are not afraid to go deep in those situations.
At least that's what tendencies say, and that's what the Cleveland Browns are anticipating, that this very next play, Schnelker will put it up deep, and probably to Anthony Carter.
Holding number 63, second down.
Again, another penalty on Kirk Loudermilk, the Vikings center.
It's like our official Fred Wyant has just about every piece of clothing he can put on. You know, you get to the ball game early on days like this because they have all the extra equipment, not only for the players but the officials as well, out on a table, and it's like a rummage sale. The guys are grabbing everything they possibly can. The guys that come late are out of luck.
Do you kind of think that every time you come to the state of Ohio, it's going to be frigid?
I love Ohio.
Second down and 19. Pass is batted down. Al Bubba Baker, who played with the Vikings a year ago, knocked the pass down at the line.
He's the man that said that the Browns are desperate and very irritable, especially himself. He wants to show the Vikings, who he played for last year, that he still has it. He wants Floyd Peters at the end of the game to say, hey, that old Al Bubba Baker, he gave us a lot of trouble today. Well, he gave Wilson trouble on that one.
Third down and 19. Browns practically in a prevent defense. Herschel Walker. Walker is stopped after a gain of a couple by Frank Minifield, and that'll bring up fourth down. You mentioned at the top, Minnesota's defense could be key today for them, but the Browns' defense has been equal to the task.
Well, they're a very proud group, and especially in the nickel situations. In the last 3 weeks, they've had almost 100 plays in that type of situation. So that's what their plan is to force the Vikings to bring in extra receivers. But right now, the Vikings are having trouble getting an extra man on the line of scrimmage for the punt.
Here comes the 11th man. David Huffman. Bucky Scribner will kick again. Gerald McNeil is deep. 10th punt of the game. McNeil loses his footing. And no one's going to take any chances today to try to field a kick like that.
You know, Huffman was late coming out. Maybe his parka was frozen shut.
He just made it. Celebrate Christmas weekend on CBS Sports. A winter sports special features 2 major international events. The World Junior Figure Skating Championships and Olympic Superstars of Tomorrow give the U.S. an early glimpse of their dazzling talent. And then the NBA on CBS. The improved Cleveland Cavaliers take a Christmas Day journey to Atlanta to battle Dominique Wilkins and the Hawks. Christmas Day on CBS. First and 10 on the 30-yard line for the Browns. Kozar's pass tipped by Studwell, incomplete. But a few moments ago, Rick Fenny, the big back, and there's another Viking on the field. Fenny was taken off the field for x-rays. We don't know what they are x-raying, and Joey Browner is the injured Viking on the field right now, and he hasn't been 100%.
Well, he came into the game with a bad rib problem, and he landed on this frozen field on his back, and that's where the problem is. It's a rib cartilage type of problem just below the ribs, and you can see he's in a lot of pain.
Second down and 10 from the Browns 30.
He majors in pain, but it's usually dishing it out. This play was almost an interception. Studwell comes over, knocks the ball up in the air, but watch how Browner will land right on his backside, and that's the problem there.
Right thigh is the injured part for Finney. Metcalf on second and 10 tries to turn the corner to little success. Al Noga and Keith Millard make the stop. By the way, Darrell Fullington has replaced Joey Browner as strong safety in the first carry of the game for an impressive rookie, Eric Metcalf.
Well, Metcalf's problem on a day like today is that he's a little light in the rear pockets. He's not the type of guy that's going to break a lot of tackles for you. In fact, the Browns are a little bit disappointed at the fact that he plays running back a little bit like some quarterbacks, where he comes and will confront a tackler. He'll go down and instead of trying to run through him.
Third down and 9. Browns yet to convert. They've all been long conversion attempts, however. Brian Brennan in the game as another wide receiver. Kozar's pass is complete to Eric Metcalf out of the backfield, and it'll be a Cleveland first down, a gain of 10. Good ad-libbing by Kozar.
Okay, Metcalf is on the left side. He circles out, and he is what you call the safety valve. Kozar looks all around, finds Metcalf in the zone right over the middle, and Eric gets up just enough for the first down.
Leads all rookie running backs coming into the game with 50 receptions. Only the second first down for the Browns. Joey Browner is back in the game. First and 10 Cleveland on the 41. Metcalf and on a reverse Langhorne, and he's going to lose a bunch. And it was Chris Dolman who smelled out the play, and a big loss of 9 yards as the Browns try to get a little fancy to get some room.
This is a good play, though. I mean, a good call at least, but you're trying to beat one of the best athletes on the defensive line in the history of the NFL. Dolman just too fast, too smart, and that does pin the Browns back. But Dolman, he has a couple of interesting goals this year. Number one is to set an all-time sack record. He feels if he does that, his second goal will be attained, that being named NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Well, as you can see, he leads the league. He's 5 shy of Mark Gastineau's sack record.
And 1 shy of Alan Page's club record. Second and 19. Kozar fires. Webster Slaughter holds onto it and makes a fine catch in the middle of 2 defenders. A gain of 17. Reggie Rutland makes the stop. And that's the guy who broke Paul Warfield's all-time single-season mark.
But I want you to notice one thing. This man right here, Webster Slaughter, a San Diego State Aztec, is playing without gloves. He's used to playing in the warm weather, but look at this grab with just the bare hands.
You're proud of him because of that, aren't you?
Well, I know how important gloves can be, but I've got 2 sets on myself.
Diego guy doesn't have to worry about catching the ball.
Not anymore.
Tony Rison appeared to move for the Browns. Penalty marker now.
Number 63.
So instead of 3rd and 2, it'll be 3rd and 7, and that's a horse of a different color for the Browns in this kind of a game.
A critical mistake. That kind of really, you waste Webster Slaughter's great effort. And there you see his reaction to the flag. That great catch he made set the Browns up in a 3rd and 2, and now they're backed up 3rd and 7.
Green Bay leading Chicago 17-14. Cincinnati over Houston 21-0. The 6th play is coming up. That's the longest drive of the game by either time team. And the whistle blew, and a flag is down, and we may have another Cleveland penalty. And it would have to be a legal procedure against the Browns.
False start, number 66. 3rd down.
This time it was Tony Jones.
And that's one of the factors that, or one of the results of the weather factor today. It's so cold, it's hard to keep your attention. It's hard to concentrate on the field.
That's one of the problems, though, as Mark Trestman tries to come up with a play on 3rd and long after 3rd and 2. 2 penalties that have affected the Browns. Mistakes, turnovers, penalties. And now they're back up to their own 39.
And you talk about home field advantage. Well, in this type of weather, there is no advantage to either team. In fact, the home team players are mad that it's so cold at their own home.
They should expect it this time of year. Kozar has plenty of time, and his pass is caught for the first down by Brian Brennan. 16-yard gain for Brennan, who is questionable with a foot injury, did not practice all week.
But he is Bernie Kozar's favorite possession receiver, number 86, on the deep come-in route. And Kozar got all day to throw this ball. He throws it perfectly into the zone, just enough, again, for the first down. But Brennan came in with a plantar fascia problem. That's the tendon on the bottom of the foot. And when it gets stretched out, it's very painful, almost as if you have a razor blade stuck to the bottom of your foot.
First down on the 45 of Minnesota. Scoreless game. 6.5 remaining in the first half. Eric Metcalf, trying to make something out of very little, picks up a couple of yards. Let's get a scoring update now from Brent Musburger in New York. Brent, what do you have?
Well, Dick, here's a third down play that did not pick up a first down. Because of penalties, it was 3rd and a bunch for the Packers. Mikowski with a spectacular scramble, but he is just short of the first down, and that led to the Packer field goal. 17-14 Green Bay right now. Back to Dick.
All right, Brent. Dick Stockton here with Dan Fouts at Cleveland Stadium.
Second down.
In a frozen day, temperatures are in the teens right now. No score with that much time remaining in the first half. The Browns have a 2nd and 7 on the 42. Metcalf to the top of your picture. Kozar looking the other way, fires and throws it away. Webster Slaughter was downfield covered by Reggie Rutland. Kozar had missed 6 straight passes before hitting 3 in a row prior to that incompletion.
And that last incompletion was a real heady play because he was about to get sacked and saw that Slaughter was down the field, could throw it in Slaughter's direction and not get called for intentional grounding.
We have not had any sacks in the game, nor have we had any turnovers, but we've had a lot of tip balls at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, we've had 4 for Minnesota, and Cleveland has knocked down 1 of Wade Wilson's tosses, so maybe we should be keeping track of batted balls instead of sacks today.
We will.
All right.
3rd down and 7 on the Minnesota 42. Pressure up the middle by Thomas on Kozar, forced to get rid of it, and Langhorne makes the reception. It'll be a Cleveland first down. Carl Lee on the stop. We're seeing some outstanding catches in this cold weather today.
We're also seeing a quarterback that is not going to give in to this weather or give in to the pressure of the Minnesota Vikings. Kozar is not your Fran Tarkington out there running around. The most ungangly looking fella playing quarterback probably since I played.
Oh, come on. Deepest penetration in the 10th play of the drive coming up. No one ever called you ungangly, that's for sure. Or ungainly. Kevin Mack will lose a yard. Mack and Barry Redden come in. A new set of running backs. Chris Dolman and Thomas Struthers in the game for the Vikings make the stop.
Here's Dolman right here. Watch how playing on the other side of the field now becomes a factor. Actually, that's Al Noga, and he slips the block of Kevin Mack or Barry Redden. I'll get him straight here in a minute.
2nd down, 13.
But a lot of great athletes playing on the defensive line, showing their ability to play a little matador. It says running backs come and try and block them.
Browns have gained only 1 yard rushing. Kozar's pass, incomplete. Would have been a tough catch for Webster Slaughter.
Kozar's pass, incomplete.
And that will bring up 3rd and long. Tremendous year for Webster Slaughter. 61 catches, a career high. Brian Brennan will bring in the play from Mark Trestman.
We talked with Joey Browner, the strong safety, who, by the way, is back in the ballgame. And he said that looking at Webster Slaughter, you don't really fear him for his speed. He's got a kind of a sloppy uniform, and he runs all elbows and knees and everything. But the guy is not afraid to go across the middle, and he is the Browns' really big threat on the long ball.
Maybe he's ungainly. 3rd and 13. Safety blitz. Kozar delivers the ball, and it's caught. Back to the original line of scrimmage by Brian Brennan, but Joey Browner came storming in on Kozar. Just make sure he's all right for good measure.
Joey Browner's number 47, and he comes clean from the left side of the screen. Mack trying to get over there, but he delivers a blow to Kozar. Good tight coverage on the blitz by the secondary. McMillan was there all over Brennan. Decision time here, though, now for Bud Carson. It appears they're going to go for it on 4th and 8.
So they realize they can't get anything with a field goal.
Well, by that statistic, they are certainly due to convert one of these 4th downs.
And the Browns are going to use another timeout. It'll be their second of this first half. And not a bad time for it with 3:06 remaining. Trying to keep the drive going. Browns have used their second timeout. Dan, I can understand why they don't want Matt Barr to try a field goal here, but why don't they try to punt the ball out of bounds inside the 10 or 5 and really hem the Vikings in?
I think Bud is confident that even if they don't make it, that his defense will prevent the Vikings from moving down the field and scoring.
4th and 9 for the Browns on the 31. Ozar's pass up the middle, intended for Slaughter, incomplete. And the Vikings will take over on downs. Michael Grimm, an extra defensive back, defending on the play, and looked like Slaughter was there for a while at least.
Well, he was there. Kozar just comes up a little bit short. You got to wonder about him in that right elbow of his. He steps up in the pocket well, but the ball just comes in about a yard shy.
Well, Bud Carson gave it a shot. Came up gnawed, and the Vikings will take over on downs when we return. You think those feet aren't cold on a frozen turf?
Yeah, they talk about quarterbacks having happy feet. Well, that's not exactly what they mean. Those are just plain cold. Cold dogs.
Well, the Vikings have their best starting field position of the game. 1st and 10 on their 31. Jesse Clark and Herschel Walker are the running backs. Wade Wilson will put it up on 1st down, going for Walker, and great pressure by the Browns. Interior defense knocked Wilson down and gets a boost from Michael Dean Perry.
Good pressure from the Browns front line. They have a number of sacks this year as well, and although they don't get to Wilson this time, Perry and Big Pike, that is, Chris Pike, number 75, put Wilson down. Every time a quarterback gets hit on a day like today, he's landing on a frozen field.
2nd and 10. Wilson completes the pass to the 35 to Jordan, the tight end. Van Waiters makes the stop. That'll bring up 3rd down. I want to remind you, at the conclusion of today's game, we will select a player of the game from each team who will be candidates for the National Miller Lite Player of the Week honors.
And we get back to Bud Carson's decision to go for it on 4th down. The other factor that had to enter into that decision was the fact that, hey, we're coming to the end of the first half. We're under 3 minutes, and that's not a lot of time to go a long way on a bad day.
3rd down and 6, getting close to the 2-minute mark. Wilson's pass up the middle, incomplete. Leo Lewis was the intended receiver, and Mark Harper was defending. And that'll bring up 4th down. It's the game in which, when I said earlier, waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for the big break that will give someone an advantage, and someone has not had anything close to an advantage in this game.
But special teams may be the factor, and again, the more times you punt the ball, it's tough for the punting team, but it's also tough for the return team. Our return man McNeil will be looking right into the sun as he attempts to catch this ball from Scribner.
There's the 11th punt of the game upcoming. Good kick by Scribner. Fair catch by McNeil. And the 2-minute warning has come with 1:58 officially remaining in the first half. It has been a defensive duel, a punting battle thus far. Not only is everyone trying to stay warm, everything is trying to stay warm, including the footballs they're using in this game.
Yeah, I was a ball boy for the 49ers when I was growing up. Never had this problem where I had to go over to the heater to keep the balls warm.
What's he want to keep warm, the footballs or his own feet? I guess both.
You bet.
The Browns take over. They had the longest drive of the game. 13 plays, used up 8.5 minutes, came up empty. And now Cleveland will start from their 33 with 1:58 remaining in the first half. Barry Redden picks up about 3. Henry Thomas and a fumble. And the first break of the game, we'll wait for the official call.
They've already given it.
The Minnesota
got
Vikings have recovered. Barry Redden, with his first carry, coughs it up.
Redden hitting off the right side. He gets hit right there, and then it looks like Merriweather comes through and knocks it out. And the man on the ball
might have been Studwell.
Well, definitely was a Viking.
So Barry Redden, the man who they wanted to use today as a tailback after being a backup fullback, fumbles the ball, and the first break of the game. The Minnesota Vikings recover a fumble and have the ball on the 36-yard line of the Browns with 1 minute and 49 seconds remain, and they have all 3 of their timeouts remaining. Now they're going to take a look now at the replay. Fritz Graff is the replay official to see whether the ground caused the fumble or not.
And you notice how well sealed these windows are in the replay booth.
And they're on the roof, and they should be sealed, because if they weren't, they would be getting the wind.
Take another look at the fumble as Merriweather knocks it out from behind. Tough to tell if his knees are down or not, but Studwell sees it, and he jumps on that ball.
Feeling is he fumbled. That's the impression I would get, that he coughed it up.
And the officials on the field made the call. I'm not sure we have enough evidence to overturn the call that was made on the field.
That's the way our view is. We've had a 30-second delay for this replay look.
This might show us from the end zone. Redden. Here comes Merriweather and John Galvin. There's the ball, but it's still very difficult to tell if he was down before it popped loose. This is what we saw originally.
Here it comes.
First down.
And the play will stand.
And because of the fumble, the Vikings find a gift a week before Christmas, and for the first time today, they are in Browns territory. All timeouts remaining. They've got 3. First and 10 on the 36. Can the Vikings take advantage of this turnover? Pitches to Herschel Walker. Goes outside, and the Browns stop him. Eddie Johnson, who's normally a good short yardage backup linebacker, was there to make the tackle.
Schnelker's play calling has kind of gone away from the pass, and that's kind of opposite of what he told us as far as his basic philosophy. He feels that the defense is at a disadvantage on the pass rush as well in the secondary. His receivers know where they're going. The defense has to react to their moves.
Jesse Clark is in the game in the backfield. Lewis in motion on 2nd and 11. Pass is batted in the air. Incomplete as the Browns try for the interception. Van Waiters almost grabbed it. Michael Dean Perry, however, got his hands on the ball, and it'll bring up 3rd and 11. Time remaining is 1:07. Vikings have not used any timeouts.
But again, a batted ball at the line of scrimmage. That's 2 for the Browns. The Vikings have knocked down 5 passes, so that's really taking over for the sacks today. No sacks for either team.
Wilson gets time, and his pass is tipped and nearly picked off. And it was Tony Blaylock, a nickel back, who knocked the ball away. And the Browns have held, bringing up 4th down, and they may be in the same position now that the Browns were earlier when they went for it on 4th down.
Well, Wilson again gets away with one here because this should have been intercepted by Blaylock. A couple of bad decisions on Wilson's part here, and if Blaylock doesn't lose his footing, he comes up with that interception and may have gone all the way for the touchdown.
Jim Gustafson was the intended receiver, so on 4th and 11, just as the Browns did a few moments ago, they went for it on 4th down instead of kicking. Wilson's pass is caught, and a first down out of bounds. Hassan Jones makes the catch. Now the Browns are arguing that he was knocked out of bounds before he hit the sticks. Vikings say it's a first down. The spot will tell it all.
But what Jones does at the end of this play is he walks the tightrope down that sideline, and I believe that this is a good call. It appeared that he had it just by a couple of inches. Here's the grab. Now watch, he's about 3 yards shy of the first down. Blaylock comes through and misses, but that left foot was enough for the first down.
It is a first down for Minnesota with 54 seconds to go. And maybe more important, they are in field goal range now to try to break this scoreless tie.
You might think he's in field goal range, but on this type of field, the closer you can get for the kicker, the better. Right now, it'd be about a 43-yarder.
First down on the 27 of Cleveland. Wilson going up on top for Lewis and nearly picked off. Thane Gash, the free safety, as Wilson went to Lewis, who was double covered by bigger defensive backs. Lewis, a short receiver.
Well, he is double covered there, but watch how he breaks on the ball, gets his right hand on it, knocks it up in the air and just out of his own grasp. But again, I wonder why Schnelker and the Vikings and Wade Wilson haven't thrown any passes to Anthony Carter yet.
Rich Carlos getting set in case he's called upon. He is 6 for 8, by the way, outdoors in field goal attempts this season. 2nd and 10 at the 26. Wilson looking for help, throws it away. Clark was the receiver, but he just threw that ball away, and that'll bring up 3rd down. And if you're wondering, right now a field goal attempt would be from 44 yards. Time, 39 seconds remain in this scoreless first half.
And getting back to Anthony Carter, he is now 100% healthy for the first time all year. In fact, the last couple of weeks, he's been running around practicing every day and feeling like he wants to contribute. Had a nice game last week against Atlanta. Big game against the Bears, but he has been missing in action so far today.
He's defended by Frank Minifield. 3rd down and 10. Wilson's pass intended for Hassan Jones, knocked away again by Thane Gash. He has been a very impressive performer in the secondary for the Browns this year, and that'll bring up 4th down.
A day like today, these defensive backs, they're not concerned with intercepting passes. They're more concerned with knocking them down. If they had better hands, they'd probably be playing wide receiver to begin with. A day like today, they'd be very happy to just keep their man from catching the ball.
You're wondering about the barefoot kicker in this weather. Carlos says, who kicked in Denver, by the way, he says, I don't mind. I come on and kick once. I have adrenaline flowing. Doesn't bother me. And then I run to the sideline. 44-yard attempt by Carlos. And the kick is good with 27 seconds remaining. Jerry Burns with a quick clap as the Minnesota Vikings take advantage of a Browns turnover.
The kicker, very important for your holder, Bucky Scribner in this case, to grab the ball, obviously, but spin it so that the laces are away from him. Look at the great timing there. Carlos gets into it, needed 44 yards, got 45, and the Vikes are on top.
For Carlos, that is his 13th field goal in a row, 2 behind the club record. Benny Ricardo set 6 years ago, and now he'll be kicking off with 27 seconds remaining in the first half. Eric Metcalf is deep for the Browns, number 21 in the middle. Then they kick it on the ground. Browns trying to hold on as a loose ball. And the Vikings Wilson recovered another kick. Both officials now signal that it's Minnesota ball with 24 seconds to go on a smart short kick by Rich Carlos, and another turnover here. And the Vikings are going to have another chance to add to their 3-0 lead.
Carlos on the intentional grounder there. Barry Redden can't quite come up with it. The ball is now on the ground. See who the first man on top of it is. There's a Brown must have gone right over the top of it. Remember, that ball is cold and frozen.
Mark Deuce-Bebek, I think, is the guy who recovered it. That's who it is.
Well, at least he's got it now.
And for Redden, who fumbled just moments ago, leading to Carlos's field goal, it's Redden who muffs the kickoff. So 2 turnovers by Redden, as it turns out, gives the Vikings another opportunity. They're on the Brown 40, 1st and 10. They still have all of their timeouts, but time running out. Wade Wilson dumps it off to Jesse Clark. And Clark gets ahead of steam inside the 30, and the Vikings will use a timeout here. A gain of 12. Clay Matthews made the tackle on Clark. First timeout by Minnesota, trying to get at least in field goal range for another 3-point attempt with 16 seconds remaining.
And if we go by what Carlos just accomplished with that 44-yarder, the Vikings need about 5 more yards to get him within that range. But that face there, that face to me says wind chill factor.
I thought you were going to say it's the map of Ireland. Barry Redden with a couple of miscues here in the waning moments of the first half, giving the Vikings a lead and another opportunity here. They have 2 timeouts left. Ball is on the 28 of the Browns.
It was almost as if Carlos had a string on that ball. When he kicked it, it went down there, teased Redden a little bit, and he yanked it back, and the Vikings came up with the recovery.
Wide receivers to the top. Wilson's pass knocked away, intended for Carter, and it was Mark Harper who got there at the same time as the ball and made the defensive play.
Fine play by Harper, as that ball was thrown behind Anthony Carter. It may be cold out there, but the temperature and the tempers are rising.
You know, just a second ago, Bubba Baker and Randall McDaniel banged helmets there. Of course, Baker will do a lot of talking out there, talking with his former mates. Bubba with a hello to McDaniel, but now it's back to business on 2nd and 10. Wilson going up on top again, and the pass nearly picked off. Again intended for Carter, and Tony Blaylock had position on it and is trying to appeal to the officials that Carter might have interfered with him.
Well, the Vikings are trying to get the ball to Anthony Carter, but 2 plays in a row, this one by Blaylock, one before by Harper, have kept him shut out so far. You just can't cover a man any better than that. The ball was again underthrown, and that'll bring up a long field goal for Rich Carlos.
45 yards, one more than the successful field goal a moments ago. Scribner will hold. Chris Foote is the center with 5 seconds to go in the first half. And this kick is no good. Off to the left again as time runs out. So the Browns avoid the second turnover, and now a penalty marker is down, and the officials are going to wave the Browns back on the field. They're on their way off.
This
they'll have to come back.
Absolutely, it's against the Browns. Somebody must have been in the neutral zone there.
Browns are going in the dugout, but it's going to be a brief warming period for them. They'll have to come back.
And this is really where the Browns pick up speed, is when they hit this dugout steps. They're going into the locker room. That's going to be a tough sale. Try to get, hey boys, we got one more play. Right. I'm not on the field goal block team. They're doing everything for Carlos. He says, I don't need it. I got the hot foot.
So Carlos is going to get another opportunity, and they're going to mark the penalty off.
And that kick was just short by about a yard, so this would definitely put him within his range for today.
Offside, number 31, third down.
Frank Benefield was offside, and doesn't it speak volumes for the kind of problems the Browns have been having lately? A couple of turnovers, and now it looked like Carlos had missed a penalty, and now a 40-yard attempt upcoming. Last play of the half. And this kick is long enough, but it's off to the right. So Carlos had two chances and missed them both. But the Vikings will have to be content with a 3-0 lead at halftime, knowing they have 30 more minutes to hold the lead and clinch a division title.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Extra Gold Draft, the party time beer with a full tilt taste. Radio Shack, your Christmas electronics toyland. And by Chrysler Motors, satisfaction is your right, and we intend to see you get it.
Welcome back to our New York studios, everybody. Now, after next weekend, the Chicago Bears are going to find themselves in an unaccustomed place this time of year. They're going to join you at home, watching the playoffs on TV. The Bears failed to make postseason play for the first time since '83. And as Dick Butkus reports, there's one Bear who is especially heartbroken.
It was only 4 years ago that the Chicago Bears shuffled into America's heart. The wild and crazy Bears captivated the country with a dominating style all their own. A style which now has become a fading memory. This year, dreams of reliving that Super Bowl glory unraveled due to injuries and inexperience. And no one has felt that anguish more than the Bears captain, Mike Singletary.
You find yourself at times you don't know what to feel. You feel frustrated, you feel disappointed, but you know that after a season like this, some character has been built. You know that something inside you has been touched.
You know, you started the season 4-0. What went wrong?
What we really didn't look at is the fact that we had so many young guys, and 4-0 meant 16-0 to them. And sometimes that can be a tough thing to overcome.
One of the biggest factors in the Bears' demise was their lack of a take-charge quarterback. Mike Tomczak and Jim Harbaugh were bruised badly, both on and off the field.
They've taken a lot of criticism this year. They've been beaten down by a lot of people. And I think that people have to tell them, hey, guys, we do believe you can do it. We know that you can do it.
You think trading Jim McMahon was the right thing to do?
You look back on it and you say, wow, you know, why did that happen, or why did Ditka do that? It's easy to say now, but at the time it was a clear-cut decision.
The defense started to come apart in Week 5, and one man's heart, no matter how big, could not carry a wounded, inexperienced squad. Nothing, in fact, could reverse the slide.
We think we are absolutely an atrocious football team at this point right now. I doubt we will be fortunate to win one more game.
Mike was just really frustrated. There was one time that we had guys here that had such an ego and so much pride that you could tell them that they weren't any good. You could tell them that they weren't good football players, but they didn't believe anyways. But now we've got a different kind of player. You got kids here that'll play their hearts out for you. But at the same time, if you get down on them a little too hard, they may not ever come back out of that shell. Once you form unity, it's unconquerable. And I think this is one of the things that the team has to get back to, unity and realizing that one for all and all for one. I mean, no matter how corny it sounds, that's what it's got to be. And I know that that's going to happen.
What's Mike McCaskey's reaction to the way Ditka's handled things this year?
Well, he's talked to Mike Ditka about being too hard on the club. They're a young team, Brent, and by taking that hard line, he's sort of frustrated him a little bit. They'll change that next year.
Now, Irv, we've got several news stories that we've been following today. First now in the NFL, the 49ers play the Bills later on. Quarterback Joe Montana, nursing those bruised ribs, will not start. Steve Young, of course, one of the better backups in the NFL. The 49ers have already wrapped up the home field advantage, so they can afford to give Montana the week off. Now, in another late game, the New York Jets will be forced to start quarterback Tony Eason, the former Patriot, against the Rams, even though Eason's only had time to pick up about 40% of Joe Walton's offense. Now, Davis Cup tennis, Boris Becker has defeated Mats Wilander in straight sets to clinch West Germany's second consecutive Davis Cup championship. And on a somber note in the NBA, Portland Trailblazer rookie Ramon Ramos, he remains in a coma following yesterday's automobile accident. Doctors now give him only a 50-50 chance of survival. He was a star at Seton Hall last year, and of course our prayers are with him as he fights for his life this afternoon. Now, switching over to the NFL, the Minnesota Vikings, trying to win a Central Division title for the first time since 1980, lead the Cleveland Browns. I guess we can say the Schnelkers are ahead of the Tressmans here, 3-0. Both offensive coordinators are under a little bit of fire, and there has not been much punch in this one. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers, they're fighting to stay alive for that division title, and they've had some offensive show against the Chicago Bears so far. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of teams have had offensive fireworks against the Bears when Dan Hampton can't play. What a great run here by Woodside.
He's fighting his way off his left guard. The thing here, the key here, though, Brent, once he gets into the secondary, simply outraces the defensive back to the end zone for a 68-yard touchdown.
It's been a tough season for that guy. Quarterback Jim Harbaugh, what a nicely thrown ball here.
Right on target, but Neil Anderson makes a great catch over the shoulder here, deep in the end zone for the score, 21 yards upfield.
Irv, you agree with me? I hate to leave off Randall Cunningham, but Joe Montana deserves the Pro Bowl, and I think Don Mikowski does for the NFC.
He would get my vote as well, too. He's had a great year. Goes to the 1 yard down there, yard line, set up with a field goal. Here he runs the ball, faking the ball inside and rolling outside on the bootleg, going 17 yards upfield for the score.
Of course, the only way that they can stay alive for that division championship would be for Cleveland to come back in the second half, and they're only down by a field goal. All right, Cincinnati trying to stay alive. Boomer Esiason with 3 touchdown passes. The Bengals have jumped all over the Oilers in Cincinnati today. Pittsburgh, they're still in the hunt for a wild card. They lead the Patriots 14-3. Indianapolis on a pair of Jack Trudeau touchdown passes, and they're ahead of the Dolphins 14-13 at the half. Kansas City punched in a late touchdown in the second quarter. 13-0. Christian Okoye has been shaken up, and we do not have any definitive word there, and the Charger defense had done a good job against him so far also. Barry Sanders, another spectacular day, 13 carries for more than 60 yards and 1 touchdown at last check, and the Lions would win for the 4th straight time if they hold on against Tampa Bay. Let's take a look at Barry Sanders. Here it is. This is why he's so dangerous, Herb.
Well, give it to him. Rookie of the year, right? Here he goes off his left end and does everything with great natural ability, cutting back across field, going upfield for a 34-yard run.
Billy Sims says he runs just like I once did in a Detroit uniform. Oh, Vinny Testaverde, look at him roll up on the ankle there, accidental injury here, and Testaverde was forced to leave. X-rays negative, and he might play in the second half. Here is Sanders' touchdown run. No question about Rookie of the Year, is there?
Well, he gets everybody's vote, right? No question, you're right.
And we'll continue with the NFL today right after these messages from your local stations.
Halftime at Cleveland Stadium with the Minnesota Vikings, with the magic number 1 leading the Cleveland Browns by a score of 3-0 on a Rich Carlos field goal. And CBS Sports coverage of NFL football will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by today's Duracell, the Copper Top Battery, Magnabot, smart choices for smart people. Magnabot, smart, very smart. And by Busch Beer. Head for the mountains of Busch Beer.
We're back at Cleveland Stadium with the Minnesota Vikings leading the Cleveland Browns 3-0 at halftime in a defensive battle, taking advantage of the 1 turnover by the Browns, a fumble by Barry Redden. The halftime statistics, 96 to 85 yards. Minnesota has the advantage. The turnovers have been key so far, 11 punts. How about the running game thus far? Not much of one, particularly from Cleveland's standpoint. They have gained only 5 yards on the ground thus far, and you expect that kind of a game. Well, it's halftime, and people are freezing out here, and of course, for my partner, I always think of him. Dan, I've got for you the official Bernie Kosar chocolate bar for energy during halftime. You got something to wash it down with?
Well, I did. Prior to the game, I had this glass of water just sitting on the ledge, and now that's all that's left.
Drips and drabs, huh?
Bunch of ice.
All right. What about the game now? And, you know, turnovers can affect this game. it looked like both defenses were outstanding. I think Cleveland's defense may have been better than Minnesota's with a terrific play in the first half.
Well, it's amazing that we haven't had any sacks, and coming into this game, that's what both of these teams really favored. But the field has played such a big part in that. There's just no way they could get any pass rush. So we've seen a lot of batted balls down. So the big problem for both teams is that how do you establish anything on the ground? Obviously, the Browns are having all types of trouble. They went with their two big backs, and it cost them a turnover when Barry Redden fumbled.
If you were in the minds of one of the coordinators now, Bob Schnelker on one side and Mark Trestman, who's been under fire here in Cleveland, let's start with Trestman. What do you see may not be right with the Cleveland offense? And if you were Kozar and Trestman, what would you go with in the second half to try to break the logjam?
I think one thing you got to do is get Bernie back into his rhythm. Get back there with a five-step drop and start throwing some shorter passes. I think they can just about forget about that running game because they're not going to get anything on this turf. And they're also running the risk of having another fumble because Kevin Mack has had a history of fumbling, and we've already seen Barry Redden leave one on the ground. So it's very important for Kozar to take control of this ball game, and it's important for Trestman to trust Kozar to have that ability to win this game for the Browns. They're only down 3-0. It might as well be a tie score.
Could have been 6, of course, as Carlos missed a field goal, got another chance on a penalty, and missed that. And so now we're set to go. The Vikings returning the kickoff. And Herschel Walker at the 5-yard line. Bangs off a couple of defenders and is down at the 21-yard line. And that's where Minnesota will take over as we start this second half. Wade Wilson, 5 for 21, 64 yards.
Yeah, this is not the type of day for a quarterback to achieve any incentive clauses in the old contract. Day of survival for quarterbacks.
They're just looking for the win. The rating may drop for Wade. The win is what they're looking for. 1st and 10 on the 22-yard line. And the handoff is to Walker for a couple of yards. Robert Banks, the defensive end, makes the tackle for the Cleveland Browns. You're wondering about the Browns wearing brown uniforms. You know, for so many years they made their reputation in the whites. You know, when Otto Graham was the quarterback and Dub Jones and Donnie Lavelli. And we found out before the game that the fans prefer the Browns wearing the brown uniforms.
And the fans will have their way 4 out of the 8 home games. And this is one of them.
Chris Pike, the big 6'8", 290-pounder, is now in at defensive tackle with Tom Gibson at end. 2nd down and 8. Did the Vikings draw the Browns offside?
Somebody shivered on the offensive line.
Boy, those officials, eagle eye. It's against the Vikings.
2nd down.
Loudermilk, the center. He moved the ball.
Yeah, he did. There's just behind the defensive line there, just a little flinch. He had that ball halfway up to Wilson. And that's, of course, what the defensive line are keying on. But Loudermilk's problem is he's got a huge man right on his nose in Chris Pike, 6'8", 290 pounds.
2nd and 13, back to the 19-yard line. Wilson dumps it off to Walker. Couldn't control it as it rolled down his back, and that'll bring up 3rd down. Herschel Walker was acquired. I remember Mike Lynn, the general manager, saying this is the kind of deal that should give us the Super Bowl because they gave up a lot of people and draft choices to Dallas in exchange.
The one thing that they didn't figure on is Herschel's inability to fit into this offensive scheme. And this is a scheme that takes advantage of a mobile offensive line that will trap and pull, and not a offensive line that comes off the ball and tries to blow people away.
3rd and 13. Wilson, plenty of time, going deep. And a catchable ball for Anthony Carter, even though there were 2 defenders there. It is incomplete. And that'll bring up 4th down. Tony Blaylock was back there.
Here's Blaylock and Carter. Watch Carter come down the field about 20 yards and then just hesitate for a second and then take off again. Now he spots the ball, but also that gave Felix Wright enough time to come over and put the hit on Carter. And again, Anthony Carter was without a catch today.
Bucky Scribner will kick. Gerald McNeil with the gloves on is back. marker down. McNeil is tackled in Viking territory, returned to 10 yards, but we may have an illegal block against Cleveland on the return. That would send them back into their own territory. Tell you what, the score 31-0 Cincinnati. The Browns have an opportunity here.
Illegal block in the back, number 26. 10 yards, first down.
Heath Jones guilty of the penalty, but the Browns still have good field position. So with Cincinnati rolling all over Houston, the Oilers with a chance to wrap it up today, the Browns have a golden opportunity. We'll be back. Early here in the third quarter, Dick Stockton and Dan Fouts. The Vikings lead the Browns 3-0. Minnesota trying to clinch, needs a victory. Green Bay is up 27-14 on Chicago. From the 41-yard line of the Browns. Play action pass. Kozar drills it. And Reggie Rutland defending on the play. Webster Slaughter, I think, is the man under Rutland. No, it was Langhorne. Incomplete. That was his hardest throw of the game.
Well, and that's close coverage. We couldn't even tell who the receiver was until they get off the ground. Play action pass. Fake to Metcalf. Good protection again. Kozar steps up and really fires the ball. But that's, again, outstanding coverage by the secondary.
Second down.
Defensive backs have had an outstanding afternoon on a very treacherous field.
And that had been the one problem spot, if any, in the Minnesota defense, the secondary. Second down and 10. Keith Millard, number 75, second to the top on the defense for the Vikes. On a delay, here's Langhorne on a reverse from Metcalf. And Langhorne is out of bounds at the 46-yard line. Audrey McMillan pushes him there, so that's the second time the Browns have tried to reverse in the game, and this to more success than the first.
And you know, the wind is starting to kick up a little bit, and I talked to Bud Carson about that. He said this is really a unique stadium where the field goal kicker will prefer to kick in one direction, that being Matt Barr. His quarterback, Kozar, wants to throw the ball in the other direction, so I asked him, well, who do you listen to? He said, well, after their performance last week when Barr missed 2 and Kozar threw 2 interceptions, I don't listen to either of them.
And then he walked out on a great exit line for Bud Carson. Third down and 4 out of the shotgun. Kozar looking, getting rushed, and Millard has the first sack of the game for either team. Kozar had no receivers to throw to. Didn't lose many yards on the play, but that'll bring up fourth down, and the Browns will have to kick it away.
Well, Millard is staying at home on this pass rush. Here he is right here. Watch how the other guys are trying to put pressure on Kozar, and Millard will stay at the line of scrimmage here. Just spying on Kozar. When Kozar makes a break, Millard makes his break and picks up his 17th sack of the year to Ty Dolman.
And Noga also in double figures for the leading sack team in the league. Leo Lewis is back deep. Wagner with the end-over-end kick. Lewis doesn't want any part of it, and it will drop at the 16-yard line. That's where Minnesota will take over. A 40-yard kick by Wagner. He's kicked well today. Kyle Kramer down the ball for the Vikings. Well, next Saturday we'll be with you. CBS Sports, Dan and I will be at the Kingdome as the Washington Redskins, who are still alive in their playoff hopes and really giving Joe Gibbs a nice send-off this year against Seattle.
Gibbs has already 100 victories in under 10 years. Former offensive coordinator of mine.
It all begins with the NFL today, 4 o'clock Eastern time. Starting from the Vikings 17. Wade Wilson gets rid of it in just in the nick of time. Rick Fenny out of the backfield, in and out of his hands. He was open, and Bubba Baker put some good pressure on Wade Wilson.
Working against Tim Irwin here, number 76. And he describes Irwin as a big grizzly bear type of guy. Well, maybe Irwin needs to be a polar bear today because Bubba Baker got around him very easily. And again, drives Wilson into the ground. Every time a quarterback gets hit on a day like today, one hit is almost like 2. You get hit by the player and then the ground.
Double jeopardy. Second and 10. Wilson's pass intended for Lewis makes a diving catch. He's missing the first down by a couple of yards, maybe 3. Felix Wright makes the stop. You talked about Bubba Baker and Tim Irwin. When Baker joined the club last year, the two of them got into a little scrap in the first day of practice, and Irwin will say, you know, he's the guy I don't like. I don't like Tim Harris of the Packers, and I'm not crazy about Bubba Baker either.
Well, there you have a long history of playing against each other, and Bubba feels he knows Irwin very well, but then there's always the counter. It's like a big old heavyweight boxing match at the line of scrimmage.
3rd and 1 on the 26. Two tight ends, the pitch to Finney, and the Browns are there. Mike Johnson and Thane Gash. And it was Gash, the first man to get there. And that'll bring up 4th down.
Thane Gash only goes about 200 pounds, but he meets Finney square up in the hole here as Herschel Walker dives for a linebacker, but that is a perfect tackle. And then Mike Johnson comes in to clean up. He's got to be a little shaken up. He hit Finney head on.
Gash has proven to be a tough customer this season, establishing himself in the secondary. Bucky Scribner kicking. On the run, and now Gerald McNeil. It was touched by Deuce Babek, who was trying to cover the kick. A 25-yard punt. And once again, the Cleveland Browns, who know the Bengals, I think they know the Bengals are killing Houston, have a chance to go to town here. On a frigid Sunday in Cleveland, Dick Stockton and Dan Fouts in a game of importance to both teams. The Vikings lead the Browns 3-0 with 11 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter. The Packers lead the Bears 27-21, and Cincinnati rolling over Houston 31-0. A Minnesota win or a Green Bay loss would give the Vikings the Central Division title, their first since 1980, but the Packers are winning right now. Minnesota holds on, they clinch. The Browns need help. Cincinnati beating Houston. If Cleveland wins today and next week, then the Cleveland Browns would win the AFC Central.
And next week, these Vikings have got to play those Bengals.
1st and 10 on the 45-yard line, or the 49. Barry Redden and Kevin Mack, the running backs. Kevin Mack. Noga got a hand on him, and he's out of bounds into Minnesota territory. Ray Berry and Reggie Rutland make the stop. Other scores around the league in this 15th weekend. Kansas City, what a great second half story they've been.
And boy, don't you think that Nick Lowry is kicking himself for missing all those field goals right here in Cleveland in that tie ball game this year.
Browns' average starting position has been their own 45. They've had good field position. Now faces 2nd and 6. Goes on with a quick toss. Ozzie Newsome, the veteran tight end, has a first down inside the 30-yard line. Travis Curtis on the stop. Newsome playing his last home game after a brilliant 12-year career with the Browns.
Well, this is what the Browns have to do, get Bernie back into his rhythm. Here's Newsome straight off the line of scrimmage on the hook pattern. 5-step drop from Kozar, and Newsome just won't get any more open than that. And that, getting the ball to Ozzie Newsome on Ozzie Newsome Day has got this crowd fired up.
19-yard pickup. He's caught more passes than any tight end in NFL history. First down on the Viking 29-yard line. Barry Redden hits a stone wall and is thrown for a 2-yard loss by Al Noga. That 29-yard line was the deepest penetration the Browns have enjoyed today.
Outstanding effort by Chris Dolman. He demonstrates that he can play the run as well as rush the passer.
Frozen field at Cleveland Stadium. And now the Vikings. Mike Merriweather is shaken up. We did not get an official timeout by Minnesota yet. No signal was given. Merriweather, who is free agent pickup by the Vikings from